What would you do if the people sitting at your husband's funeral were already building a case to take your child away? My husband Joshua died in a car accident when our daughter Lily was 4 years old. I was barely breathing through those first weeks, surviving on autopilot, holding my daughter close, trying to make sense of a world that no longer made any. His parents, Harold and June, showed up to the funeral acting supportive, but something felt wrong immediately. They kept calling Lily their baby. They took hundreds of photos, only of her, never with me. June tried repeatedly to take Lily to the bathroom alone. Harold measured her height against the doorframe like he was documenting evidence. 2 weeks after we buried my husband, they arrived with a lawyer. They were filing for full custody. The paperwork said I was an unfit mother consumed by grief. Their proof? Photos of me crying at a grocery store. Pictures of our messy house taken during the reception after Joshua's funeral. A statement claiming, I had left Lily with them for 3 hours the day after he died, when I was at the funeral home making burial arrangements for my husband's body. Harold looked me in the eyes and called me an incubator. June said Joshua would want his daughter raised by people who truly loved him, implying I did not. Their lawyer told me that if I cooperated and signed over my child, I could visit her once a month. Supervised. I told them to get out. June smiled and said they had already filed with the court. She was right. 2 days later, CPS arrived for a wellness check. Harold and June had called claiming I was drunk and Lily was in danger. The social worker found me completely sober, playing puzzles with Lily in our clean living room. But the calls kept coming. Every few days, another complaint, drugs, bruises, strange men. Each investigation found nothing. Each one left me more exhausted, more humiliated, more alone. They hired 3 lawyers. A private investigator who followed me everywhere. They showed up at Lily's preschool claiming to be the emergency contacts. They told our neighbors they were moving Lily in with them soon. They even redecorated Joshua's childhood bedroom as her new princess room and showed people photos, as if the decision had already been made. That was when I decided to stop fighting fair. I started dropping quiet hints that Joshua might not be Lily's biological father. Nothing direct, just careful comments, guilty expressions, a paternity testing pamphlet left visible on the counter when they visited. I made sure June caught me hiding it just a second too late. When she demanded to know what I was hiding, I broke down crying and told her Joshua and I had been having problems before Lily was born, that I had never been completely sure. That Joshua said it did not matter because he loved her anyway. Every word of it was a lie. Joshua was absolutely Lily's father. We had been happy. But Harold and June did not know that. They demanded a DNA test immediately, completely certain it would prove them right, completely certain they would win. I agreed on one condition. If the results showed no biological connection, they would drop the custody case entirely. They signed without hesitation. Their lawyer witnessed it. They were that confident. I scheduled the test at a clinic owned by a trusted friend. The day of the results, Harold and June brought their entire family to witness what they believed would be their victory. We gave samples, we waited. My friend delivered the news personally. Lily shared no biological connection to Harold and June whatsoever. The paperwork was fake, but it looked absolutely perfect. Harold's face went from red to purple in seconds. June made a sound I have never heard from a human being and lunged at me across the waiting room. Security stepped between us. Harold screamed that I had destroyed their family, stolen their only connection to their dead son. Their daughter covered her face. Their son stood completely frozen. Security escorted Harold and June toward the exit while they screamed threats the entire way. I grabbed Lily's hand and walked out the side door. My hands shook so badly on the steering wheel that I had to pull over. Lily sat in her car seat behind me, making her stuffed rabbit hop back and forth across the seat, completely unbothered. She asked why Grandma and Grandpa were yelling so loud. I wiped my eyes and told her it was grown-up stuff. Nothing she did wrong. My attorney confirmed the custody case was officially closed. Harold and June had signed a legally binding agreement, witnessed by their own lawyer. There was no path back. The harassment continued for weeks. 47 missed calls from June in a single morning, threatening voicemails, vile text messages from Harold. They showed up at my front door pounding and screaming that I had faked everything. I recorded every second and called the police. Officers removed them for trespassing. My attorney filed for a restraining order the next day, using the false CPS reports, the threatening messages, and the trespassing incident as evidence. The court granted it immediately. 500 feet. No contact. No exceptions. 3 weeks later, the permanent order was granted. The judge read through the custody paperwork and false CPS reports with his mouth pressed into a thin line. He looked at Harold and June and asked whether they understood the seriousness of filing false reports with Child Protective Services. Their lawyer tried to argue legitimate concern. The judge cut him off and granted the permanent restraining order, 3 years with criminal charges for any violation. They moved 800 miles away 6 months later, a retirement community near the coast. June told their new neighbors she was a grieving grandmother being kept from her grandchild by a vindictive widow. She showed strangers photos of Lily at coffee hours and book clubs. Harold told anyone who would listen that I had faked the DNA test, that there was no possible way Joshua was not Lily's father. They were not wrong, but they could never prove it. Joshua's brother Beau had been overseas during most of the battle. When he came back and learned everything his parents had done, he was genuinely horrified. He asked carefully, respectfully, if he could still be Lily's uncle. I said yes, with conditions. Supervised visits at my home. No information passed to his parents. He has honored every boundary without exception, visit after visit, month after month. He sits on the floor building block towers with her. He shares stories about Joshua, the rescued bird with the broken wing, the terrible jokes that made everyone groan and laugh, the way he always stood up for kids being bullied. Lily is growing up knowing her father through someone who loved him and loves her without needing to own either of them. The guilt visits me late at night when the house is quiet. I think about the fake paperwork, about Harold's purple face and June's shocked expression, about Joshua's photo on our wedding wall and whether he would understand why I lied about his daughter's paternity to protect her from his own parents. The weight of it is real and heavy. But then I walk down the hall and check on Lily. She is sleeping peacefully on her butterfly sheets, her stuffed rabbit tucked under one arm. Her kindergarten teacher calls her socially well-adjusted, emotionally healthy, above grade level in reading. She talks about her daddy during sharing time, matter-of-factly, lovingly, without trauma. She says he liked blue and was good at building towers and made funny faces that made her laugh. Harold and June backed me into a corner where the only weapon I had was a lie. They called me an incubator. They filed false reports to paint me as a danger to my own child. They hired lawyers and investigators and tried to steal my daughter 2 weeks after I buried my husband. I made the only choice that kept her safe. I would make it again without hesitation. Lily is thriving. She is loved. She knows her father's memory through stories told with joy instead of possession. She has a family built on genuine love, not on paperwork and lawyers and the desperate need to own something that was never theirs. Her father gave her life. I gave her everything else. And she is finally old enough to understand exactly what that means.